Admiral Zexthul stood before the massive viewing screen aboard the flagship Dominance. His 6 arms crossed behind his chitinous back as he gazed at the blue-green marble suspended in the void. Earth, the third planet from its unremarkable yellow star, home to the species the galaxy had come to know as humans. "Such a pathetic sight," muttered Commander Vossack from behind him. "To think the High Council considers these primitive mammals a threat worthy of our attention." Zexthul's mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among the Karthek. "The Council's wisdom extends far beyond our understanding, Commander. These humans have been expanding rapidly through the outer sectors, 7 colonies in as many cycles. Their technology, while crude, shows disturbing signs of rapid advancement." The bridge of the Dominance hummed with activity as thousands of Karthek officers coordinated the movements of the largest battle fleet ever assembled. 3,000 ships of various classes, from nimble destroyers to massive dreadnoughts, hung in formation around the flagship. The combined firepower could reduce entire star systems to cosmic dust. "Admiral," called Navigation Officer Klicktar, "all fleet formations report ready. We await your command to begin the bombardment." Zexthul studied the tactical display showing Earth's defensive positions. A handful of orbital platforms, perhaps 200 ships of laughably small size, and what appeared to be some kind of defensive grid around the planet's major population centers. The intelligence report suggested a total human population of nearly 8 billion souls. "Pitiful," Vossack sneered. "Their largest warships are barely the size of our escort frigates. This will be less a battle than an extermination." The Admiral's communicator crackled to life with the distinctive harmonic tones of high command. "Admiral Zexthul, this is Supreme Commander Thexmore. You are hereby commanded to strike Earth. Show no mercy. The human infestation must be cleansed entirely. Their rapid expansion threatens the natural order of our galaxy." "Understood, Supreme Commander. We shall carry out your will." Zexthul closed the channel and turned to his weapons officer. "Target all major population centers. I want nothing left but ash and memories." On the planet below, President Sarah Chen stood in the Situation Room deep beneath the Capitol, surrounded by military advisors and scientists. The massive screens showed the alien fleet in all its terrible glory. Every person in the room understood what they were looking at, the end of everything they had ever known. "Madam President," said Admiral Jackson, his voice steady despite the circumstances, "we're receiving communication attempts from the alien fleet. Should we respond?" Chen nodded grimly. "Put them through." The screen flickered, and Admiral Zexthul's alien visage appeared. His triangular head tilted as he spoke in perfectly translated English. "I am Admiral Zexthul of the Karthek Hegemony. By order of our High Council, your species has been deemed a threat to galactic stability. You will surrender your homeworld immediately, or we will take it by force." President Chen stepped forward, her jaw set with determination. "I am President Chen of the United Earth Government. We've done nothing to warrant this aggression. Our colonies are peaceful scientific outposts. We've never attacked any alien civilization." "Your very existence is an attack upon the natural order," Zexthul replied coldly. "For 3,000 years, the Karthek have maintained peace through strength. We will not allow upstart mammals to disrupt what we have built." "Then we have nothing to discuss," Chen said firmly. "Humanity will defend itself." Zexthul's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "With what? Your toy ships and primitive weapons? We counted your entire defensive fleet, 200 vessels against our 3,000. Your planet will burn, and your species will become a cautionary tale." The transmission ended, leaving the Situation Room in tense silence. General Martinez, head of Earth Defense Command, cleared his throat. "Madam President, we have perhaps 6 hours before they move into optimal bombardment range. Our defensive platforms might hold them off for 30 minutes at best. Chen walked to the large window overlooking the command center below. Thousands of technicians worked frantically at their stations, coordinating last-minute preparations. She thought about her children, safe in the deep bunkers, about the billions of people depending on her decisions. "Admiral Jackson," she said quietly, "initiate Protocol 7. Jackson's eyes widened. "Madam President, are you certain? Once we begin, there's no going back." "They've made their intentions clear. We always knew this day might come. Our ancestors faced extinction before and survived. We'll do the same." Across the planet, hidden installations that had operated in secret for decades began powering up. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, massive structures that official records listed as geological research stations started their awakening sequences. In the Australian outback, camouflaged facilities that appeared to be mining operations revealed their true purpose. The Antarctic research bases, supposedly studying climate data, began broadcasting coded signals to receivers scattered across the solar system. Aboard the Dominance, Sensor Officer Plit UX frowned at his readings. "Admiral, I'm detecting some unusual energy signatures from the planet, multiple sources, but I can't identify the technology." "Elaborate," Zexthul commanded. "It appears to be some kind of massive power generation, but the energy patterns don't match anything in our databases. The readings are significant." Commander Vossack waved a dismissive claw. "Probably some desperate attempt to overcharge their pathetic weapons. It matters little. Ready the bombardment cannons." Back on Earth, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the primary control room of the Prometheus project, her hands dancing across holographic interfaces. Around her, the brightest minds humanity had ever produced worked with desperate efficiency. The room hummed with power that would have been impossible just decades earlier. "Status report," she called out. "Fusion reactors at 98%, reported Dr. Kim. "Gravitational field generators coming online. Quantum entanglement networks synchronized across all facilities." "Temporal displacement field generators?" Vasquez asked. "Charging. Estimated time to full capacity, 4 hours, 27 minutes. Dr. Vasquez nodded grimly. Humanity had learned long ago that the universe was not a peaceful place. The first alien contact, 30 years earlier, had been a scouting probe from the Vegan Collective. Though peaceful, it had delivered a stark warning. Powerful empires ruled the galaxy with iron fists, and Earth's rapid technological advancement had not gone unnoticed. Since then, the greatest scientific minds had worked in absolute secrecy, developing technologies that would have seemed like magic to previous generations. They had studied captured alien technology, reverse-engineered quantum manipulation, and pushed the boundaries of physics itself. "The Karthek think they're facing primitive humans," Dr. Vasquez murmured to herself. "They have no idea what we've become." The alien fleet began moving into attack formation. Massive dreadnoughts positioned themselves for optimal bombardment angles, while smaller ships formed protective screens. The coordination was flawless, the result of millennia of military experience. "Their defense grid is powering up," reported Plitix. "But Admiral, these energy readings, they're unlike anything we've encountered." "Impossible," Vossack scoffed. "What could primitive mammals possibly have developed that we haven't seen before?" As if in answer to his question, the space around Earth began to shimmer. Reality itself seemed to ripple like water disturbed by falling stones. The defensive platforms that had appeared so pathetically small suddenly blazed with energy signatures that made the Karthek sensors shriek warnings. "Admiral!" Plitix's voice cracked with alarm. "I'm reading massive gravitational anomalies forming around the planet. The energy output, it's impossible. Nothing that small could generate this much power." Zexthul studied the readings, his confidence wavering for the first time. "Explain what we're seeing." I cannot, sir. The humans appear to be manipulating space-time itself on a planetary scale. Our physics models cannot account for these readings. The space around Earth's defensive platforms began to fold and twist. What had appeared to be simple orbital installations revealed themselves as something far more sophisticated. Energy cascaded between them in complex patterns, creating a network of power that defied conventional understanding. President Chen watched from her bunker as humanity's greatest secret finally emerged from the shadows. Dr. Vasquez, status report. Phase 1 is complete, Madam President. The dimensional anchors are in position. Phase 2, initiating now. On the screens, Earth's modest fleet of 200 ships suddenly began to move. But their movement was wrong, impossible. They flickered in and out of existence, appearing in multiple locations simultaneously. The laws of physics seemed to bend around them. What sorcery is this? Zexthul breathed, watching as human ships phased in and out of normal space-time. Admiral, Weapons Officer Graktul stammered, our targeting systems cannot lock onto them. They appear to be existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. That's impossible. No species has ever mastered quantum manipulation on this scale. Sir, if I may, Navigation Officer Klicktar interrupted nervously, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. These readings suggest technology far beyond what we were led to believe. Zexthul's pride overruled his caution. Nonsense. They may have some clever tricks, but we have 3,000 ships. Numbers will overcome whatever witchcraft they've developed. All ships, prepare to engage. Show these mammals the fury of the Karthek hegemony. The battle lines were drawn. 3,000 alien vessels, each one a masterwork of military engineering backed by millennia of conquest, faced 200 human ships that seemed to mock the very laws of physics. But appearances, as the Karthek were about to learn, could be devastatingly deceiving. As the first shots were fired, space itself began to scream. The first volley from the Karthek fleet should have been the end of everything. Plasma bolts capable of cracking continents, particle beams that could slice through mountain ranges, and quantum torpedoes that could destabilize atomic structures themselves, all directed at Earth's pathetically small defensive fleet. Instead, something unprecedented happened. The weapons simply passed through their targets. "What in the void of space?" Commander Vosak snarled, his 4 eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Our weapons are passing straight through them!" Admiral Zexthul gripped his command throne as his officers scrambled to understand what they were witnessing. The human ships flickered like ghosts, existing and not existing in the same moment. Whenever Karthek weapons reached their positions, there was nothing there to hit. "Sensor report!" Zexthul demanded. Plitux's claws clicked frantically across his console. "Admiral, the human vessels appear to be phasing between multiple dimensional states. Our weapons are calibrated for 3-dimensional space, but they're somehow existing in more than that." "Impossible," Vosak spat. "No species has ever achieved stable multidimensional technology. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical." As if responding to his disbelief, the human ships suddenly solidified into normal space, but they were no longer in their original positions. In the span of a heartbeat, they had reorganized into a complex formation that surrounded key elements of the Karthek fleet. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, humanity's flagship, and smiled grimly as the alien weapons passed harmlessly through their previous position. Phase shift complete. All ships report successful dimensional translation. "Tactical," she called to her weapons officer. "Target selection?" Lieutenant Commander Hayes consulted his holographic display. "Primary targets identified, Captain. Their flagship and the heavy dreadnoughts in the center formation. The AI has calculated optimal strike points." "Dr. Chen." Santos turned to the civilian scientist stationed at a specialized console. "Are the quantum tunneling systems ready?" Dr. Rebecca Chen, President Chen's daughter and lead physicist on the Prometheus project, nodded with fierce determination. All quantum lance arrays are charged and synchronized. Dimensional anchor locks are established. Then let's show them what happens when they threaten Earth. Fire. The human weapons that activated bore no resemblance to conventional armaments. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, they manipulated the fundamental forces of reality itself. Quantum lances reached across space-time, bypassing shields and armor by attacking targets from dimensions the Karthek couldn't even perceive, let alone defend against. The effect was immediate and devastating. The mighty Karthek shields, capable of deflecting star-destroying weapons, simply didn't exist in the dimensional layer where the attacks originated. Quantum energy pierced through the flagship's hull as if it were made of paper, selectively targeting critical systems while leaving crew areas intact. "Impossible!" Zexthul roared as his ship shuddered under attacks that shouldn't exist. "Report!" "Main shields are completely ineffective," Graktul reported in panic. "The attacks are coming from... I don't know where they're coming from. Our sensors can't track them." Emergency lights bathed the bridge of the Dominance in crimson as primary systems failed throughout the ship. But the humans had been precise. Life support remained intact, as did communications. "All ships," Zexthul broadcast across the fleet. "Concentrate fire on the human vessels. Overwhelm them with volume." 3,000 ships opened fire simultaneously, filling the space around Earth with enough destructive energy to sterilize entire star systems. The humans had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide from such overwhelming firepower. Except they didn't need to hide. Captain Santos watched calmly as the alien barrage approached. Temporal deflection fields now. The space around the human fleet began to shimmer with an oily, rainbow distortion. Time itself twisted around them, creating pockets where cause and effect operated by different rules. Plasma bolts fired at the human ships arrived before they had been launched, creating paradoxes that unraveled their coherence. Particle beams curved back on themselves, caught in temporal loops that dissipated their energy harmlessly. "Captain," Dr. Chen reported, "temporal stress is within acceptable parameters. We can maintain this for approximately 18 minutes before reality stabilization becomes necessary." "More than enough time," Santos replied. "Signal the secondary fleet." Deep in Earth's shadow, hidden behind the bulk of the planet itself, humanity's true defensive fleet decloaked. Not 200 ships, but 2,000. Each one larger and more advanced than anything the aliens had ever encountered. Ships that had been built in orbital shipyards hidden within folded space, powered by miniaturized black holes, and armed with weapons that rewrote the laws of physics. Admiral Zexthul's mandibles clicked in disbelief as his sensors registered the new arrivals. "Where did they come from? Our deep scans showed only the handful we initially detected." "Admiral," Plitux's voice was barely a whisper, "those ships, the energy readings, some of them are larger than our dreadnoughts, and the technology, it's not just advanced, it's revolutionary." The hidden fleet moved with purpose, their engines manipulating space-time to achieve accelerations that should have crushed their crews. But humanity had long ago mastered inertial manipulation, allowing their ships to perform maneuvers that seemed to mock physics itself. Admiral Jackson, commanding from the UES Retribution, opened a channel to the alien fleet. His weathered face appeared on every Karthek screen, his expression cold with righteous fury. "I am Admiral James Jackson of the United Earth Defense Force. You came to our world with genocide in your hearts. You threatened our children, our families, our entire civilization. You called us primitive. You called us weak." His voice grew harder with each word. "You were wrong about everything." On Earth's surface, President Chen stood in the main control room, watching as the true scope of humanity's preparations revealed itself. For 30 years, ever since that first alien probe, humanity had prepared for this moment, not just with weapons, but with a complete transformation of their understanding of reality itself. "Dr. Vasquez," she said quietly, "initiate Phase 3. "Madam President, Phase 3 is unprecedented. We've only run simulations. They threaten to exterminate our entire species, Elena. We don't hold back anything now." Dr. Vasquez nodded and began the activation sequence. Across the solar system, installations hidden on asteroids, moons, and deep space platforms began to power up. Humanity had spent 3 decades seeding their entire star system with defensive technology, turning their home into the most heavily fortified position in the galaxy. "What is that?" Vosak pointed at the tactical display where new energy signatures were appearing throughout the solar system. "Our entire system is weaponized," Admiral Jackson explained conversationally. "Every asteroid in the belt has been hollowed out and fitted with quantum manipulation arrays. Mars isn't just a colony world, it's a fortress. The gas giants, we've been mining their cores for exotic matter and using their magnetic fields as power sources." The Karthek fleet found itself surrounded not just by the human ships, but by the entire solar system itself. Asteroids opened like flowers to reveal massive weapon batteries. The moons of Jupiter ignited with energy signatures that dwarfed anything in the alien arsenal. Even the sun seemed to pulse with artificial rhythms, as humanity demonstrated they had learned to harness stellar energy itself. "This is madness," Zexithel breathed. "No species could achieve this level of technological advancement in mere decades." Admiral Jackson's smile was without humor. "You assume we were starting from primitive beginnings? You're wrong. When your probe visited us 30 years ago, we had already achieved quantum consciousness transfer. We had mastered fusion, antimatter, and were experimenting with dimensional theory." "Impossible," Vosak interjected. "Our intelligence indicated your species was barely spacefaring. Your intelligence was deliberately fed false information. We learned from that first probe that contact with galactic civilization was inevitable. We also learned that this galaxy is ruled by predators who see rapid advancement as a threat." Jackson's expression grew grim. "So we let you underestimate us while we prepared." The truth was devastating. Humanity had not only hidden their true capabilities, they had been actively deceptive about their level of advancement. Earth's colonies were not peaceful research outposts, but heavily fortified positions. The primitive technology the aliens had observed was deliberately outdated equipment displayed for the benefit of alien scouts. Captain Santos received the signal she had been waiting for. "All ships, weapons free. Show them what humanity is truly capable of." The human fleet opened fire with weapons that operated on principles the Karthek couldn't comprehend. Reality-warping cannons created zones where the laws of physics operated differently, causing alien ships to simply cease functioning as their matter forgot how to maintain coherence. Temporal acceleration beams aged portions of enemy vessels by millions of years in seconds, turning advanced armor into cosmic dust. Gravitational manipulation weapons created localized black holes that consumed everything around them before safely dissipating. Quantum entanglement bombs linked to their targets across space-time, meaning that damage dealt to one ship was instantly replicated across dozens of others regardless of distance. The mighty Karthek fleet, which had conquered countless worlds and destroyed entire civilizations, found itself completely outmatched by technology that seemed like magic. Ships that had withstood the fury of exploding stars were disabled by weapons that attacked them from dimensions they couldn't perceive or defend against. "All ships retreat," Zexthul finally commanded, his pride shattered by the reality of his situation. "Emergency jump to hyperspace, maximum distance." But even retreat was denied to them. The humans had prepared for that possibility as well. "Dimensional anchor locks activated," Dr. Chen reported calmly from Earth. "Their hyperspace engines cannot achieve translation while trapped in our reality matrix." The Karthek fleet was trapped, surrounded, outgunned, and facing an enemy they had never truly understood. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity was just beginning to show them the true meaning of superior firepower. The Karthek fleet found itself in a nightmare that defied everything they understood about warfare. Ships that had been the pinnacle of galactic military might were being systematically dismantled by weapons that seemed to operate outside the laws of physics itself. Admiral Zexthul watched in horror as his dreadnoughts, each one capable of conquering star systems, were reduced to helpless hulks drifting in space. "Sir," Communications Officer Yexal reported with barely controlled terror, "we're receiving transmission requests from 17 different human vessels simultaneously. They're speaking in our language, but also in frequencies our brains can't process. It's like they're communicating directly with our consciousness." "Answer them," Zexthul ordered grimly. The main screen flickered to life, but instead of showing a single human face, it displayed multiple perspectives simultaneously. Admiral Jackson appeared in the center, flanked by Captain Santos and a dozen other human commanders. But behind them, the very fabric of space seemed to ripple with intelligence, as if reality itself was participating in the conversation. "Admiral Zexthul," Jackson began, his voice carrying harmonics that somehow spoke directly to the Karthek's mind. "Your fleet is defeated. Your weapons are useless. Your shields cannot protect you. Your engines cannot take you home. The question now is whether your crews live or die." "What do you want?" Zexthul asked, his pride finally cracking under the weight of absolute defeat. "We want you to understand," Captain Santos replied. "For too long, species like yours have treated the galaxy as your personal hunting ground. You've exterminated countless civilizations simply because they showed potential. You call it maintaining order, but we call it what it really is: genocide born of fear." Commander Vosak, his earlier arrogance completely gone, stammered into his communicator. We were following orders. The High Council commanded us to eliminate the human threat." "And why were we a threat?" Dr. Rebecca Chen asked, her image joining the communication from the bridge of a vessel that seemed to be made of crystallized space-time itself. "Because we advanced too quickly? Because we colonized 7 worlds in 7 years? Because we showed the same potential that your species once possessed?" The truth hit Admiral Zexthul like a physical blow. You knew we were coming." Admiral Jackson nodded slowly. "We've known about your empire for 30 years. We've studied your tactics, your technology, your history. We know about the 17 civilizations you've destroyed for the crime of rapid advancement. We know about the Veltar, who developed quantum computing. The Nexus Collective, who achieved faster-than-light travel in record time. The Ethereal Commonwealth, who learned to manipulate energy on a planetary scale. All extinct," Captain Santos continued the litany. "All destroyed by Karthek fleets following Karthek orders from a Karthek High Council that fears change above all else. You've turned the galaxy into a stagnant pool, where only your approved level of technology is permitted." Dr. Chen gestured, and the communication expanded to show views from across the human fleet. But these weren't just ships. They were works of art that happened to be capable of unimaginable destruction, vessels that looked like living sculptures wreathed in auroras of manipulated energy, craft that seemed to phase in and out of existence as they moved between dimensions. "We decided long ago that humanity would not go quietly into extinction," she explained. "We would not be just another entry in your empire's list of exterminated species. Instead, we chose to become something you couldn't destroy, something you couldn't even comprehend." The demonstration that followed was as much a lesson as it was a display of power. Human ships began reshaping the battlefield itself, manipulating matter and energy on scales that dwarfed anything the Karthek had ever witnessed. Asteroids were transformed into complex geometric shapes that pulsed with exotic energy. The very fabric of space was woven into patterns that created pockets of accelerated time and compressed reality. "Watch carefully," Admiral Jackson said, as a small human vessel approached one of the larger Carthek dreadnoughts. "We're going to show you what your weapons would have done to Earth's cities." The human ship extended what looked like a tendril of liquid starlight. When it touched the alien vessel's hull, the entire dreadnought began to transform. Metal flowed like water, reshaping itself into impossible configurations. The ship's interior was rebuilt in real time, turning weapons into artwork and armor into gardens. "Your ship now exists in a state of quantum superposition," Dr. Chen explained clinically. "It is simultaneously a weapon of war and a peaceful research vessel. Your crew is unharmed, but your capacity for destruction has been permanently altered." Across the fleet, similar transformations began occurring. Carthek weapons were reconfigured into scientific instruments. Armor plating became observation domes offering spectacular views of the cosmos. Ship reactors were modified to power medical facilities and educational centers instead of engines of destruction. "This is impossible," Plit Ukes whispered from his station. "They're rewriting the fundamental nature of matter itself." "Nothing is impossible when you truly understand the universe," Captain Santos replied, somehow having heard his whispered comment across the communication link. "You see, Admiral Zexthul, your species made a critical error. You assumed that advanced technology meant better weapons, stronger shields, faster ships. You never considered that true advancement might mean transcending the need for such things entirely." The space around Earth began to shimmer with new patterns, as humanity revealed yet another layer of their capabilities. The planet itself seemed to be singing, vibrating with harmonies that created visible ripples in the fabric of reality. The defensive installations weren't just weapons. They were components of a vast instrument that could play symphonies with the fundamental forces of the universe. "We don't just manipulate space and time," Admiral Jackson explained. "We've learned to make reality itself our canvas. Every human ship, every installation, every piece of technology we've created is part of a vast consciousness network that spans our entire star system." President Chen's image appeared among the others, speaking from her command bunker, but somehow also seeming to exist everywhere at once. "When you threatened our world, you weren't just facing our military. You were challenging a civilization that has merged individual consciousness with cosmic awareness. Every human thought contributes to our collective understanding of the universe." The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just developed advanced technology. They had evolved beyond the limitations that constrained other species. They had become something that existed on multiple levels of reality simultaneously, capable of perceiving and manipulating forces that others couldn't even detect. "Your empire ends here," Admiral Jackson declared with quiet finality. "Not through destruction, but through transformation. Your fleet will return to your homeworld, but not as conquerors. You'll return as something new." As he spoke, the remaining Carthek ships began to change. Not physically, but fundamentally. Their crews found their minds expanding, their perceptions shifting to encompass realities they had never imagined. Weapon systems reconfigured themselves into exploration tools. Military protocols rewrote themselves into scientific methodologies. "What are you doing to us?" Zexthul asked, though his voice carried more wonder than fear. "We're giving you the gift we received 30 years ago," Dr. Chen replied. "The gift of understanding that the universe is vast and strange and beautiful beyond imagination. Your species has spent millennia enforcing stagnation. But what if instead you spent that time exploring the infinite possibilities that exist beyond your current understanding?" The transformation of the Carthek fleet was complete. 3,000 vessels that had arrived as instruments of genocide now existed as something entirely different. Their crews retained their memories and personalities, but their fundamental understanding of reality had been expanded beyond all previous limitations. "You have a choice to make," President Chen addressed Admiral Zexthul directly. "Return to your empire and continue the cycle of destruction that has lasted for millennia, or help us transform the galaxy into something worthy of the countless civilizations that call it home." Zexthul looked around his bridge, seeing his crew with new eyes. They were no longer warriors bound by ancient hatreds and fears. They were explorers standing on the threshold of infinite possibility. "The High Council will never accept this," he said, though his tone suggested he was already considering alternatives. "The High Council," Admiral Jackson replied with a slight smile, "is about to receive some very interesting visitors." As if on cue, space around the Karthek homeworld, hundreds of light-years away, began to shimmer with the same reality-warping effects that had transformed the battlefield near Earth. Humanity had not been idle during the years of preparation. They had seeded the galaxy with quantum beacons, dimensional anchors, and consciousness expansion networks. "Change is coming to your empire, whether it's welcomed or not," Captain Santos explained. "But it doesn't have to be traumatic. You can be part of guiding your people into a larger understanding of what existence can offer." The choice was not really a choice at all. The Karthek Empire, as it had existed, was finished. The question was whether it would evolve or simply fade away as its fundamental assumptions about reality were proven obsolete. "I need to speak with my crew," Zexthul said finally. "Of course," Admiral Jackson nodded. "Take all the time you need. The universe isn't going anywhere, and neither are we." As the communication ended, Admiral Zexthul turned to face his officers. They looked back at him with expressions of confusion, wonder, and something approaching hope. For the first time in their lives, they had encountered something genuinely new, genuinely transformative. "Orders, sir?" Commander Vossack asked, though his tone suggested he was no longer certain what orders might be appropriate. Zexthul considered the question for a long moment. Outside the viewports, human ships continued their impossible dance through dimensions, creating patterns of light and energy that spoke to something deep in his consciousness. For 3 millennia, his people had enforced their vision of order through fear and destruction. They had become so focused on preventing change that they had forgotten how to grow. But these humans had shown them something different. They had demonstrated that advancement didn't have to be a threat, that change could lead to beauty rather than chaos, that the universe was vast enough to contain infinite forms of consciousness without any of them needing to dominate the others. "New orders," he said finally, his mandibles clicking with something that might have been anticipation. "We're going home, but not to report a victory or a defeat. We're going home to begin the conversation that should have started thousands of years ago. We're going to talk about what the galaxy could become instead of what it has always been." The transformation was complete. Humanity had not just defended their world. They had fundamentally altered the trajectory of galactic civilization itself. The age of fear-based stagnation was ending, and something unprecedented was about to begin. In the vast network of consciousness that humanity had become, a single thought rippled through 8 billion minds. Welcome to the universe as it truly is, infinite, beautiful, and waiting to be explored. The stars themselves seemed to sing in approval as the first day of a new galactic age dawned across the cosmos.